Immerse yourself in Candy Crush Music Season. Crush the competition for a chance to win 3 epic live music experiences anywhere in the world. Discover the hottest new tracks from Toki Monster, Kimbra, and Lazewo in-game now. Now that sounds sweet. Quick or tap the banner to download Candy Crush and play Music Season now. Start September 19th. Open to players 18 older above level 25 in eligible countries. Prize cap value and terms apply.
What's 2FA security on Kraken? Let's say I'm captaining my soccer team, and we're up by a goal against, I don't know, Soda Springs FC. Do we relax? No way. Time to create an extra line of defense and protect that lead. That's like 2FA on Kraken, a surefire way to keep what you already have, safe and sound. Go to kraken.com and see what crypto can be. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Payward Interactive Inc., PWI DBA Kraken. View PWI's disclosures at kraken.com/legal/disclosures.
Atheists, agnostics, long-haired weirdos, short-haired weirdos, vandals, hooligans.
The government, hug the government, love the government, hug the government, love the government, hug the government.
Welcome to The Politics Guys, a place for bipartisan, rational, and civil debate on American politics and policy. I'm Northern Kentucky University political scientist Michael Baranowski. I'm joined today by my conservative counterpart, attorney and former deputy assistant to President Trump, May Mailman.
Mike.
Hey, May, I was going to say, hey, Jay, I've just been hardwired into my head to say that after so many years, but my different conservative counterpart. But so as always, we didn't have time to get to everything that we wanted to get to in the regular show, starting with something I think kind of an interesting issue because it cuts across partisan lines in certain ways. And that's IVF with this Senate IVF bill that came up and couldn't get over a filibuster. But I'll let you kind of take it from there.
Yeah. So the Democrats put up a bill that would have given individuals a statutory right to IVF, and that insurers would have to fund these treatments and everything surrounding it. And I think two Republicans did vote for it, Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, exactly who you would expect. And I think there was a question of whether Republicans would vote for it, given that President Trump has said that he wants to make IVF free. And of course, this doesn't make it free. This just says that Medicaid and private insurers have to pay for it. There's no such thing in this world as making something free. And in fact, government subsidies tend to make things far more expensive, as let's just take student loans, for example. So the Republicans who voted against it, and there was a separate Republican bill that doesn't tie funding, but that said that states can't prohibit IVF if they're going to take Medicare, Medicaid money. So that was Ted Cruz and Katie Britt's bill, and Democrats didn't support that. So, there was a different path. But yeah, Republicans didn't support this, and a lot of them gave different reasons. One is that there are, non-discrimination on the basis of gender identity provisions in this bill. So there was some question about what sort of procedures are we going to do, like experimental, trying to let men have babies type thing, because if you can't discriminate on the basis of gender identity, you have to do all these procedures, what does that mean? Okay, fine. There was there's no religious liberty exemption. So because this gives individuals a right rather than saying states can't prohibit, and there was no carve out, there are some insurers, there are some employers who do have concerns with probably not every IVF procedure, but certain things surrounding certain, regulations around IVF that might want to do that. And this just takes a sledgehammer to it. So I definitely agree with that. I think there's probably also a cost element here. There's a sort of, I don't even know if it's like, whatever. I guess we've crossed the Rubicon on there being any limit to the federal government's authority giving individuals a right to IVF. But yeah, so I think it was pretty smart politically of the Democrats to take something that actually isn't that crazy. It really is what Trump had basically said, and throw it at Republicans and have them say no. But on the other hand, maybe I think it should be a little bit heartening for Republicans who wonder, and I count Trey as one of them, whether there is a Republican Party outside of Trump. And I think there really is, because this is not a conservative bill, even for people who strongly believe that IVF is something that is a societal good and want people to have access to it. There's still a lot of problems with this approach. I guess I'll say one other Republican talking point, which is that this bill is unnecessary, that IVF is not being threatened. It's available in all 50 states. And that is true. It is available in all 50 states. But of course, you have bills all the time that do things that are, even though there's no crisis. So, yeah, I think it was smart politically, but I think it also shows that there is something about conservative values that is not related to President Trump.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I feel that just on policy grounds, if you're a conservative, it would be crazy to vote for this simply because there's a very good chance, a very high likelihood that you're going to control the chamber you're currently in the minority in, and you'll have a bill that's much more to your liking without a lot of those provisions that you mentioned that many conservatives don't like. And so just on policy grounds, that's a reason to do it, I think. But also, I was thinking about how I feel about mandated payment for IVF by the government, because there are a couple ways to look at it. I mean, IVF is an elective medical procedure, and maybe that's a weird way to look at it, but it is, right? No one has to get IVF to save their lives or do anything like that. And so if you reframe it, you say, well, should the federal government, and let's just say the federal government will pay for it all. Now, initially, Trump said that, but then he said make insurance companies pay for it. But like you said, nothing is free. I ran some numbers because I got geeked out over this and really curious. And my estimate is that it would cost probably around $9 billion a year or so to provide for free IVF, including for higher usage if it's covered by insurance, that sort of thing. Because even if it's free, IVF is a harrowing, difficult process. I mean, it usually takes around 3 week cycles, and it's emotionally and just psychologically a rough thing to go. Not a lot of people are going to sign up for, oh, well, it's free now. Oh, okay. So, I mean, should the federal government tell insurance companies that they have to pay for an elective medical procedure? I don't really feel all that comfortable about that. I don't know what you think about that, because I think you're more of a fiscal conservative than I am. What do you think about it from that angle?
Introducing our biggest GMC Acadia ever, offering bigger screens, bigger views, and even bigger journeys. Live your biggest life in the all-new GMC Acadia.
Now, 2 pigeons bemoaning the fact you can stream DirecTV satellite-free.
These humans can stream all the top-rated national news channels on DirecTV, and now with no satellite dish.
This just in. Weather, sports, election coverage. DirecTV has it all, but something is missing. The satellite dish.
What are you doing?
I'm reporting the news. Back to you, Bob.
Here's some news. You're a buffoon.
Stream the top-rated national news channels. No satellite dish. Visit DirecTV.com. Internet required. Top-rated news based on 2023 Nielsen ratings.
Yeah, I think that's tough. And of course, people don't feel like it's elective for the same reason that we're having this IVF debate in the first place, right? The reason that we're here is because some parents lost their fertilized embryos, what they considered, these are supporters of IVF, what they considered to be their children, because somebody smashed them. Some crazy person smashed their frozen embryos. And these parents, supporters of IVF, wanted compensation as if what they had taken was a life. And that's why when you treat this as some sort of elected procedure, it feels difficult because we're not talking about a boob job, right? We're talking about, your family and whether you can do the most natural and normal thing like that we're on this planet, which is to have kids. So, but I guess, so I agree with you, if you were to tell me for $9 billion, you can fund IVF and even if I had to find something to pay for it, I would do that in a second. I mean, if you were to say you can have $9 billion extra dollars of end of life care versus $9 billion of IVF, I would say $9 billion of IVF. I think the problem with federal mandates is not just financial, though, because I think dollar per dollar, I'd rather spend it on this than the vast majority of things that our government spends money on. I think it's deeper than that. I think, one, IVF, as you say, is a very harrowing procedure. And so as our federal government basically tell women and men, it's fine. Like, you've got this insurance policy, you've got these frozen embryos, you can just IVF. Like, that's also a dangerous message. IVF is not successful frequently, and it is hell. And I think I'm more on the JD Vance train of like, if you want to prioritize having a family, I think the government should help you prioritize having a family. Like, there should be policies in place to help that. I don't think like delaying childbirth to the point that you need IVF, which some people, need at the beginning, but like tend to be older couples. I think that's pretty fraught and pretty dangerous and just like a bad message, I guess, from our federal government. I think that when the government subsidizes things, it does not get better. It gets worse. It gets more expensive. It gets harder to access. So I think like there's problems there. I think that even if you want to be in favor of IVF, you might want to put some regulations, restrictions on it so that various, whatever it is, like that you're not storing up 50 eggs or something like that and throwing them all away. Maybe there's some sort of limit, something like that maybe not everyone agrees with, but these are reasonable things to really recognize that these are maybe you don't want to call them life, but that there's something special there. And those are all normal things. And when you have the federal government come in with the sledgehammer, I just think it's very difficult to address a very difficult and emerging and expensive and changing area. And Tom Cotton gave an interview on CNN where he said that this bill would have also mandated things like cloning and stuff like that some of the language can be used to require payments for things that people do have larger problems with. I haven't studied the language that closely to know whether that's true, but that's always the risk with federal legislation, especially legislation, which is that, why can't we let this percolate in the states or percolate unregulated for a little bit? Because coming in with federal legislation is a big response for something that's not a problem right now.
Yeah, I guess I would say that if the choice is between the federal government paying for it flat out or the government mandating insurance companies cover it, I have a big problem with unfunded mandates and telling insurance companies, hey, figure it out, just cover this. That passes on the cost to them. That's an unfunded mandate to business. And I'm not okay with that. And that $9 billion, if you just want to look at it from an economic perspective, assuming my math is even remotely right, and I'm going to assume that, but it breaks down to you'd be roughly paying essentially around $112,000 for each additional child that would be born because of successful IVF. And again, there's a lot of assumptions there, but if you consider that just on economic grounds, that over the course of their lifetime, your average person is likely to contribute somewhere between $3 to $5 million in economic gain to the economy. And so $112,000 investment for $3 to $5 million worth of economic gain, that sounds like a pretty good deal. Now, okay, you could say, well, what if you just invested that money? You'd get maybe around the same amount with, that accrued interest, but there's also that public policy interest in keeping the population growing, large and growing, because there are all kinds of potentially dynamic effects for a large and growing population. And certainly we can accommodate a lot more people in the United States. And so I feel like if there's going to be a mandate, or if there's going to be IVF that the government wants the people to be able to afford, the government should go ahead and pay for it. And there are plenty of good, solid public policy reasons for doing so. That's kind of where I think I end up coming down on this. And like I said, $9 billion, if that's close to right, that's nothing, basically. And I think for so many people who can't have kid, now, I don't have any kids, but I know, and it hasn't been that big of a deal in my life, but I know for a lot of people, not being able to have a family is just an emotionally crushing blow. And if government can do something to help with that, that also helps keep the country stronger in a lot of ways, well, that seems to me to be a pretty good use of government money. We hope you enjoyed this preview of our supporters exclusive midweek show. If you'd like to hear the rest of the episode, we hope you'll consider becoming a supporter. Supporters get ad-free access to all of our shows, membership in our Politics Guys Discord group where you can join in on the conversation, and other benefits at different levels of support. To become a supporter, go to patreon.com/politicsguys. You can also support us through Venmo or @politicsguys, or through PayPal. You'll find all of our support links in the show notes, as well as at politicsguys.com/support. And if you'd like to get the midweek show, but you're not in a position to become a financial supporter, that's not a problem. Just send me an email at mike@politicsguys.com, and I'll be happy to get that set up for you.
This podcast is part of the Democracy Group,